Good morning to the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of you who remember to say good morning back. I appreciate it. I've been given a few moments this morning to talk to you about why we have a tent sitting out there and talk about share the warmth and what we're going to do. But really what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a story. It's a data-informed story. For those who know me, I'm all about data. But this data is about people, and there's actually a story about how we got the data. So my name is Zoe Hale. I moved here after completing 27 years of military service. I decided that South Carolina was a place to be, mainly because I had a daughter who was going to university at Anderson University. And it happened that one of her roommates is in the book about the Lot Project. So one of her college roommate was named Jean. If you get the book about the Lot Project, you can read about Jean and how you need a practical pair of shoes. But this data that I'm going to talk to you about comes about when you transition from one stage of life to the next, sometimes there are surprises across that transition. So after a year working for a high-tech company, I realized I'm hardwired for service, and I hate working in high-tech. So I quit. So I jumped on this opportunity, which is great. It's called AmeriCorps. It's a service opportunity. It's a lot like the Peace Corps, but you serve domestically. You get paid at poverty level, so everybody should be excited about that. But they ask you 2 questions. And within AmeriCorps, in that service, I tried to answer those 2 questions in 2 years. I'm not done yet. The first question is, what does poverty look like in your community? And what is there to help with it? And so for 2 years, I studied where the ministries were, where the people were, who got up every single morning and said, what can I do to help? And so every day, there are hundreds of people in Anderson County that all they care about when they get up is who they can serve. And that moves me. And many places that I serve these days, whether it's in Iowa, whether it's in Townville, where it's in BHP, if you don't know what that means, I'll tell you later, whether it's up in Piedmont, I see people who have no hope. So I'm going to ask you to pray for them as part of Share the Warmth, because they're made in the image of God, and they should hope. Pray for them. It's just not being cold. So the data that I'm about to share with you comes about because in the pandemic, the first thing they asked us to do is to stay home. But what if you have no home? Where do you go? Where do you wash your hands? Where do you get a shower? In the military, you know what you do when they say, send me. You have body armor, you have a long rifle. There's probably a lot of travel involved in it. Some of it's fun in a helicopter, some is not so fun. It's in other type of vehicles. But now when they say, send me, it's in really different circumstances. My husband is military too, so he too feels that calls to service. And so in that point in time when people said, go home, he said, we need something for people who have no home. So the county gave him a shower trailer. We had not studied in the military how to operate a shower trailer. I mean, we get the wet part and dry it off part, but there were a lot of details involved. So we ran the shower trailer on behalf of the county. And we had all kinds of resources that we could have, sort of, if you knew how to ask for them. And it was a great experience. But I'm hardwired for service, but I'm also hardwired for data. So I made him keep track of every single person that they served. And at first we did it on paper, but he's also a database engineer. So even though he was working like 20 hours a day with the shower trailer and making sure there was food and coffee, because we went through about 20,000 gallons of coffee in a short amount of time in operating the shower trailer. Not to take the shower in, but apparently that goes with offering a shower. Anyway, he decided that he just couldn't stand all this information being on paper, so he created a database for me so I could come up with reports, but it's really to tell a story about the people who came, the people who are in need, the people who are impoverished, the people who have no hope. We wanted to tell that story. And so because of that, he created an app. Welcome to the 21st century. There's always an app involved. He created an app so it's easier to sign people in. And so we know things about the population that comes visits the Lot Project, Honey's Place, Clean Start, a number of the other agencies that offer services. And so I'm here to tell you a story informed by that data. And I have charts and graphs and details, so get excited. It won't be that bad, I promise. All right, here's your first data visualization. 0. Since I've studied this and studied these people and the population come for services, I can tell you with complete accuracy, no one comes all the time. Absolutely no one, nowhere. And I can tell you 25% of these people come once. You never get another opportunity again to show them grace. And you might be meeting them on the worst day of their life. You don't know that. But you drove there. You have a bed to go home to. You're warm. You be graceful. You be gracious. You be loving every time you see them, no matter how they act, because they're made in the image of God. And you don't know their story before they walked in front of you. You get one chance to show them God's grace. That's what 0 tells me. Six, you're liking the data visualization so far, right? Okay, 6, that's how many people say happy birthday in Anderson County to their 65th birthday, on average, every single day. There's the largest growing demographic in Anderson County is the older generation. And as I get closer to 65, it's looking pretty young, I'm just saying. But 6 people every single day turn in 65, and a lot of them don't have a birthday cake and they don't get a party. Many of them are living in old houses. They're not fixer-uppers, they're burner-downers, okay? They cannot afford the utilities in them, and they wait as long as possible to turn it on. And the utility bills can be like $900 a month, which does not go far when you're on fixed income. They might also be living in these unbelievably nasty pre-HUD standard single wides. And if you don't know what the HUD standard is, you know these nasty single wides. People should not be allowed to live in them. You can't heat them, you can't cool them, and you can't insure anything inside of them. And it's not a matter of if they're going to be burning, it's when they're going to burn down. They are not safe. And yet people stay there because they don't have enough money. And they too don't turn on their utilities, whether it's hot, whether it's heating or cooling, because they can't afford them. 9, there are 9 municipalities in Anderson County. We call them municipalities because Anderson County is an Appalachian rural county, and it's full of tiny, tiny, tiny towns. Some of them might be called cities, but they're little cities, which means their resources are constrained. And there's more of us in the county than there are people on the administrative staff within our municipalities. Where the lot project serves is in the city of Anderson, and it is the only municipality where there are more renters than owners. And renters are in older houses, and they're not nice houses. And people are crowded into places where they simply don't get what they need. And so they're the kinds of people who end up at the lot project. $200. I see this number a lot. It turns out there are 46 neighborhoods of deep need in Anderson County. For those of you paying attention, that's like 50. So when I see the number 200, it usually describes a situation in each one of those neighborhoods of need. But it means you really need to impact just 4 people. But you do see this level of need all the time. For example, there are 200 people waiting to get on a Meals on Wheels route. People who need food. For those who are paying attention, this is not a number, it's infinity. The number 200 might look intimidating, but it's not. Because the math I was telling you about previously is additive math. 1 + 1, 2 + 4, how much can we get? But I found when I was studying the agencies and the ministry and the people who wanted to help in Anderson County, the cooperation between them yields larger results. An infinite number of permutations and combinations with God's grace allows us to more than it feels like just one of us can do. So when you're thinking about that tent or wondering why it's there, we do need blankets, we do need sleeping bags, but I really need you to pray without ceasing, because for those people who have no hope, they need to know hope. So please pray, and thank you for listening to me.